Bom bom bom. Welcome back to your favorite spookiest channel on YouTube.
Or it can draw conclusions.
Spookiest
He is a
reaction
person.
channel, Internet's Darkest Corners Part 2.
Personal computer from
Apple
and it's
computer,
as easy to
hello?
use
Well, that's the
as
OG.
this.
Yes, raid, house, and garden bug
But by
What
killer.
is
taking the proper
this?
precautions, you can get the
Pulled
job
out.
done.
Oh no. Oh, hold on. We might have just disconnected.
There was no way to defend herself. She knew she had been caught.
Let's see.
As
I've
in the
pulled
hours
over.
prior to getting behind the wheel
What's
of
this
her
about?
car,
Okay, we're still
21-year-old Gianna Webb
going.
had consumed far too many drinks, causing her driving to become uncontrollable and erratic. And after reaching speeds well over 100 miles per hour, and driving right past a pair of state troopers, Gianna was now pulled over on the
100?
I-95 in South Philadelphia. There, she would be approached by officers Martin Mack and Brandon Siska.
I was once pulled over going 113 miles per hour over a bridge, and I blamed it on downhill speed. I just got out of work, so I was on my way home. I had my chef uniform on and everything. And the officer was like, "Hey," oh, and you just sneezed into my face. I was like, "Whoa, are you allowed to?" Oh my God. I saw. So this right here, there's a line. Is it
As she
on?
sat one
Oh, it is. There was a light line on the screen. I thought my screen was cracked or something. Oh my Lord. But I was pulled over and he was like, "You weaponize your vehicle, you could be sent to jail." I was like, "What? Let me off." And he wrote the ticket for like 80. I show up to court because they send me this ticket like a month late. And then I'm like, "Yo, it's late. I'm not paying the late fee. Conspiracy, you sent it to me late." Fucking speaking about that, I have jury duty somewhere that I need to actually go to, call or something and apologize. Oh shit. Oh, I just dropped a spit cup and it just landed perfectly. Is this it? Dude, I do have jury duty that I need to go to. But we were pulled over, yeah? I show up to court and the cop sees me and it's like some Kill Bill music playing in the background. He's like was just squinting at me like, "You weaponized a vehicle. You could be in jail." And then I was like, I talked about the late fee, and I was like, "I already paid the ticket. I did the schooling. It's just I'm not paying this late fee for no reason. You sent it to me late." And then swear that cop was sitting there like, because he didn't want to lie. Because if he was like, we pulled you over going 140 or 113, that's weaponizing a vehicle. But then I'm like, "You lied and wrote down I was going 80." Hmm.
breathalyzer away
No.
from facing harsh legal action for her poor decision. But just as the officers began conversing with the intoxicated woman, their attention would soon be called elsewhere, as an urgent call was made to their radio, alerting them that a pedestrian had been wandering by foot on that very highway just a few miles ahead. Unaware at this point that Gianna was in fact inebriated, and assuming that the pedestrian was a far more pressing concern, the officers sprang into action and sped away into the night, allowing Gianna to leave freely and breathe the ultimate sigh of relief. Clearly she had dodged a bullet, but rather than being thankful
Yeah.
that she had avoided certain and serious
She
legal
a baddie.
ramifications, the incident
What?
instead seemed to inflate her ego, as she immediately took to Twitter, still parked on the side of the road, writing in a braggadocious manner, "Why the cop pull me and he say I'm doing 110 and a 50? As strange of a response as this may have been, to narrowly avoiding a life-changing arrest, this was surprisingly on brand for Gianna, as between incessant posting about how much she loves to drink, she would also tweet, "If you ask me, I'm the best drunk driver ever." This was clearly a
7
pattern for
a.m., bro.
Gianna, a
She tweeted that
normalized
7 in the
action, as she
morning.
believed that she was
God
fully
damn.
capable of driving drunk, and also that she was actually good at it, which is not only incredibly frightening, but also
She got a lot of diseases, but you know she has probably some of the best cooch that you would ever have in your
from the
life, bro.
truth.
No.
Immediately after tweeting this message out, Gianna would again speed off into the night,
It's the
having gotten
unhinged
away
ones,
with her
honestly.
drunk driving once
Driving, dude.
more. Though,
She
ironically,
supports
just
it?
minutes later,
That's
she would again
terrible.
approach those very same officers that had
Still
just
kind of
pulled her
hot, but
over, as well as that very pedestrian they were trying to help. Only
she
this
hits them?
time, there was a problem. She was going far too fast, and was impaired to the point that her reaction time was severely delayed. She quickly began to swerve out of control, and by that point, there was no stopping. And in an instant, Jayana
Oh, pause. 307. Subscribe so we can get the high-speed internet. I don't even
the
know
very
if that's the
pedestrian they
internet
were
problem.
trying to help. Only this time, there was a problem. She was going far too fast, quickly began to swerve out of control,
Jump
and by
ahead to
that
skip the whole
point,
story.
there was no stopping.
So
And in an instant,
I love you.
Jayana
Thanks
would
for.
careen her vehicle
I love you
directly
guys.
into officers Martin Mack and Brandon Siska, as well as that same pedestrian they were
It's lagging
attempting to
again?
save, striking all three at unimaginable speeds. As the car finally came to a
It
stop,
is.
all three of the men lay motionless on the pavement. None of them were alive, with the only survivor of the incident being Jayana.
What a baddie! She probably survived because she was drunk, but she killed those two officers and then the pedestrian that was walking.
The best drunk driver ever.
I mean, she survived. No, usually if you're the drunk driver, you survive. If you're ever drunk driving with someone,
March 30th,
don't drive with them.
2007.
Literally, don't even get in the car, bro. No better. But if you have to, drunk drive with someone, bad advice. But make sure you're plastered. Because the only way you're surviving that car accident is if like you're inebriated and your body, you flow. You know what I'm saying? You got to be like water. I would just say don't even find yourself in that predicament. But if you find yourself in that predicament, look at the driver, fucking just chug back a whole bottle, and then just be like, I'm drunker than you, so just know if we get in a car accident, I'm surviving because I'm drunk. I'm passenger, I'm surviving. Yeah, because it sucks that the drunk drivers always survive, but it's because so it's like how would you get a baby drunk? How would you survive a car accident now? Now I'm like everyone should be drunk driving because who
17.
survives
A
the
disturbing video begins
the
circulating
drunk
across
drivers?
Twitter, showing
Interesting.
a woman hanging out of a window, clinging on for dear life with one hand. Below her was 7
This is gonna be
stories
like a
of
weird
nothing,
racist,
leading to
fucking
concrete
sexist,
ground and
third world
metal.
country ass.
Certain death for anyone unfortunate enough to fall from that height.
It is, bro.
Understandably, the woman is crying and begging to be saved, yelling over and over again to hold me, hold me. But what makes this story especially disturbing is the commentary in the background heard in response to these pleas. As the woman desperately clings to the window, another woman stands inches away, holding her phone and recording the ordeal, as she calmly responds to the cries for help by saying, "Oh crazy, come back." It's a chilling line, knowing that one woman was clearly powerless and in dire need of help, while the other woman just stands behind the camera, seeming completely
To be
unfazed by the
people.
gravity of the situation,
what?
waiting for tragedy to strike.
I thought it was gonna be
And
a
that's
dude.
exactly what would happen, as the lady soon loses her grip, causing her to plummet to the ground below. Moments later, the camera shows the woman as she lays there deathly still, 7 stories below. It was an extremely shocking video,
Why?
and one that immediately raised questions as to what
What?
exactly had led to this
Made?
scenario, with millions viewing the video and sharing it across Twitter in a
How'd she-
desperate search for answers,
how'd she
as
get
the
out?
clip offered nothing else in the way of context.
Yeah, Nick.
Initially,
Give
it
me
was
some
believed
context.
and even reported that the woman had done this as a way of taking her own life, and the woman behind the camera seemingly didn't believe that she would go through with it, perhaps just not understanding that by that point, there was literally nothing the hanging woman could have done to pull herself back up. And due to
Maybe
this
it
being
is.
the
It's
most
supposed to be on
prominent
auto,
initial
though.
theory, many would walk away from this video believing that it was sadly yet another tragic suicide. However, there was something that still didn't sit right about this clip, as the cold, callous way that the woman off-screen had spoken to this struggling woman just comes across as so off-putting, leading some to believe that there had to be more to this story, a notion that would turn out to be correct.
What do you think it
Upon the
is?
release of a series
No
of local
idea,
articles
dude.
from Kuwait, it
If
would
it
be
was a guy
revealed
and
that this
girl, it would
hanging
make
woman's
more
name
sense
was
to me.
actually Adish Sadiq. And what we are witnessing in this video actually isn't an attempted suicide, but rather an attempted murder. At the time, Adish had moved from her home in Ethiopia to quote-unquote work as a maid in Kuwait, and I say this because it would later be revealed that Adish had essentially been a slave to her employer. She had only been working for this particular boss for 3 days, but during this time she had been held captive and was forbidden from leaving the building, making Adish essentially a prisoner or a slave, which sadly is all too common of an occurrence in the area due to something called the kafala system, which is way too complicated to fully dive into here, but on this particular day,
What? Lebanon's restrictive and exploitative Khalifa sponsorship system traps teens. What? Traps tens of thousands of migrant domestic workers in highly abusive conditions amounting at the worst of modern slavery. The law fails to protect the workers, and the establishment has no interest in changing the current system. Whoa. America's number one boy. We bomb them. Honestly, go for the politicians' houses. Who owns these? What? OSHA. If America has to follow, I was just thinking about this, dude. I have to pass smog. I had to spend like fucking over like 2 grand or something trying to fix my shit, and then get smog pass and the sticker, and then I honestly I'm not paying my fast track fees because we all know someone else is gonna pay that. No, but this is a completely this is if I have to follow OSHA, if I have to follow rules at work, if I have to follow the rules of the car, I guess, so does every other country. And it pisses me off that they don't. You go to India, dude, their cars, the motorcycles, everything's fucking shit hit the fan. The second that you're like you have to pass smog to be able to use your shit like that, dude, they would be revolutionized instantly. Those countries would be almost normal. You'd still have the people, you can't just clean the people out. But like the system that this is 2022.
which is way too complicated to fully dive into here, but on this particular day, Adish finally had enough, and she approached her boss telling her that she was quitting, while demanding to be released. Though it wasn't quite that simple, and her boss did not take kindly to this request. In response, Adish would be grabbed and thrown inside of the bathroom of what appears to be some sort of apartment complex, with the room being located near the very top of the building. Once inside, her boss, a woman who to my knowledge has not been publicly named, would lock the door and begin shouting at Adish and proclaiming that she was going to kill her, and that no one would ever find out or even care for that matter, which was most certainly true given the unbalanced power dynamic in the area between employers and foreign workers. And knowing that the woman was in fact serious with her threats, and that if she were killed in that bathroom, no one would have known, Adish made the split-second decision to try and escape out the window, despite knowing that she would most likely not survive the fall. But at least this way, as slim as it may seem, she had a chance. Going out that window was purely an act of desperation, but to Adish it was the only way, and so she clambered out the window and prepared to plummet to the ground below. But not before her boss pulled out her cell phone to record the woman's final moments, while openly mocking her as she fell to the ground below. This explains the lack of assistance that the camera woman offered, and why she seemed to have such a smug attitude towards the helpless woman, because she didn't care if Adish died. Her life was meaningless to her if she wasn't her slave. And to make this employer's behavior even more jarring, she would immediately upload the video to her very own Snapchat, where it would then be re-recorded and shared across the web. And when questioned about what exactly had happened inside that bathroom, it was this employer that began the lie that Adish was merely trying to take her own life. She had formulated this entire rumor to essentially absolve herself from any responsibility, and it's almost certain that she would have gotten away with this too, had it not been for the fact that Adish survived. Upon falling to the ground below,
That was
Adisha's
great.
fall would be broken by
Great
a metal
news.
awning, which more than likely saved her life, as
Holy fuck.
miraculously she was able to physically walk away from the scene with merely a broken arm and a few other non-life-threatening injuries.
God
She'd even go on to give an
is
interview
real.
inside the
Holy
hospital
fuck.
just a few days later, where she would reveal the truth behind this shocking video, with this testimony leading to the arrest of her employer, who would ultimately receive just a few months of jail time. But still, it's crazy to me just how differently this story could have ended, and probably should have.
Boots on the ground, Dunkin' Donuts set up, Burger King set up, U.S. Army on ground less than 24 hours. You know how they have the boots on the ground less than 24 hours? It's because the Dunkin' Donuts and the Burger King need to be there first. Motherfucker, we will have cities set up in less than 12 hours. U.S. government can and will. And that's why it's like, no, dude, this is why it's like we are a dog being held back. We need to save the world. I'm gonna use the U.S. government. We are in
As
charge.
imagine if this
No,
video had never been recorded,
I'm just
and imagine
saying,
if
no,
Adish
dude.
hadn't survived that fall.
Holy
I mean, the
crap.
truth would have literally never been known, which is such a
I
scary
think it's like, where's
and
the money from saving people? Dude, whatever's going on over here, again, regulations, Americanized, boom, boom, bing, keep your culture. But like regulations, you could call OSHA American. I don't think OSHA is American. You could call worker rights American. I don't think that's Western. I don't think it's American. So yeah, boots on the ground. We saved this country. Now what does the country do for us? Boom. You work for you're America now. Welcome to tax.
utterly depressing thoughts. Though thankfully, the story did have a happy ending, a phenomenon that is sadly all too rare when
And if you
exploring the
accept, no
dark corners
tariffs
of the internet.
because you're us. There would be no tariff. Think about that.
If you've seen my videos before, then you know that the internet is a dark and dangerous
Ooh,
place.
NordVPN.
And in our day and age where everything revolves around it,
Let's go first last name.
cybersecurity should
Sometimes
be
he
of the
does
utmost
only
importance
last name.
completely free.
Only last name. Crowley. NordVPN. Now, I don't trust...
VPN.com.
Things could go.
That's just me. I don't trust any
If
of
we
the...
miss a step in the rigging process, things could go seriously wrong. The first step to preventing accidents is preparation. Let's begin by taking a close look at
Those
In recent years, the
videos...
popularity of live streaming has seemingly reached an all-time high, as it allows the audience to interact with their favorite creators in a unique.
That's why it's like those OSHA videos, those training videos. You could look up some of the most fucked up, and they do animations because this shit's happened in real life, bro. You know the cardboard crushers? Sometimes I go to places and they just crush cardboard. They have literal like guides to how to use those because people got in like a piece of clothing, something stuck in, and then out of nowhere they're sucked into this cardboard crusher and they're crushed. Like it's like arm and then head and then or whatever. And it's mind blowing that you look at one of those infomercial things and you're like, yeah, but who would? You got to be smarter than that. And it's like, dude, why do you think those exist? Is because people have died like that, and they're like, this is a new training video. That's why it's like anytime I see a training video, like who fucked up? Who had to? Because someone had to mess up first, and then they made the training video.
Intimate way. But with any content like this, there always lies a dark side, as unpredictable events can interrupt the live stream at any moment.
Oh, she's going super fast. Oh wow.
Unsurprisingly, this has led to countless compilations and clips throughout the web, documenting the many disturbing moments that have happened when creators go live.
Car
and
accident?
of these endless examples, a few have always stood out to me. In the year 2021, a 23-year-old named Chao Quimi had been building a following on the social media site Douyin, the Chinese version of what many of us know today as TikTok, which will actually be featured in the remainder of today's cases. She would post numerous videos and live streams, helping build her follower count to over 100,000 people.
The TikTok is owned by ByteDance. ByteDance is owned by China. China owns Like 75% of the world. What does ByteDance own? League of Legends. League of Legends is a video game. What else does ByteDance own? Battlefield. And if you want Rockstar in like Grand Theft Auto and other things in China, guess what? They're owned by ByteDance. Literally everything is owned by ByteDance because of Chinese laws and regulations. Like a portion of those companies have to be bought in and ran by Chinese governments, so they're able, unless you know, you're not allowed to play Grand Theft Auto if you're in China. You know what I'm saying? Unless ByteDance owns it, they don't give it out to the people.
It was a
So
more
it's
than
like
respectable
everything that China has that we have is owned by China, if that makes sense.
number, and though she wasn't the most famous person on the platform by any
Like
means,
every video
many
game that to
believed that she
exist.
was well on her way to internet stardom. But before she could get there, she knew that she had to keep a stable job and establish some sort of income, as she was already in the process of building her family, being the mother of 2 young children.
What do you think this
And
one's
so
about?
she would spend her days working as a crane operator, assisting in numerous
Like how I
construction
lean over to
projects,
whisper.
and
It's
earning
like
herself a decent wage, as it wasn't a job that most would sign up for. The cranes that Chow was often tasked with operating often stood hundreds and even thousands of feet in the air. It certainly wasn't a job for the faint of heart,
What?
but Chow seemingly embraced the challenge, and in many ways used her unique skill set to her advantage, as she would often document her life as a crane operator on Douyin, with these videos, along with her dancing content, being responsible for the majority of her viewership. And by the summer of 2021,
Should we do
Chow
dancing
would begin
content?
not only
Fuck,
making
dude.
videos while at work, but she would also begin live streaming right from her job. And on July 20th, 2021, when her workday began to wind down, she would once again fire up her stream.
No shot.
The
She
full
about to
version of this stream doesn't appear to be available anywhere online today, and rather, we only have a roughly 2-minute
clips?
clip from that day, with the video starting in silence, as Chow had been singing along to copyrighted music, while inside the small cab of her massive crane, sitting 160 feet in the air. She would then set her phone down
I just had a crazy fucking there should be confessions with copyright strike music. So if your confessions ever try to get out, there's copyright strike music in the background, so they have to block it. So all the audio. Imagine that. No, because it kind of blows my mind that they. What if information is hidden within the copyright strike music? Yo, just play it. But then it's like, no, spooky corporations, this and that. And I'm like, huh, I'm gonna use. I need to figure out how we can use copyright. No, because I mean, if music is just playing and they block out the audio, that's so funny. Like, what if you're like admitting to some world
with the
conspiracies?
camera still rolling, as the viewers began flocking to the
Like
stream,
she's like
loving every
dancing in
second of
silence.
it. Or at least they were, until the footage cut to this.
Is falling? What's happening?
Though the exact moment has been cut from this video, likely out of respect for Chow,
Oh.
as she was streaming 16 stories in the sky, Chow finishes dancing and begins to walk down the steps of the crane until she slips, causing her to free fall all the way to the ground, with her phone supposedly still in hand. On her way down, she seems to strike metal bar after metal bar from the crane until she finally hit the ground below, killing her instantly with her phone still recording. I just can't even imagine being one of the viewers in that live stream and watching
She
that very
fell?
moment that she begins to fall. And ultimately, I think it's a good thing that the actual footage of her slipping has essentially been wiped from the internet, as even with the missing frames, this is truly one of the most disturbing live stream accidents that I have ever seen.
Yeah, that is fucked,
An
dude.
accident that
The fact that people want to watch the video, it's like that's just you're watching snuff films, bro. Grow up.
showcased the brutal end of a rising star taken too soon.
No, not like that, dude. I mean, that's not to be salty about it, but then it's like, no. I like the way Nick actually does these stories because you're not, dude, watching her slip and fall, why would you want to see that? But then it's like understanding the story behind it. It's like what happened after? Probably regulations. You have to wear a harness now and connect that with a beaner clip. You fall, you're hung up by your harness by the waist. Like what positive things could have come out of this? I don't know. China doesn't have a lot of regulations when it comes to construction.
And throughout the history of the Douyin platform, she's far from the only one.
See? It's not so hard after all. Once you get the hang
Not the
of it,
only
it can
one.
be easy to rig a load safely.
Raid hunts bugs down like radar.
China's TikTok. I want Nick to do deep dive into Chinese TikTok spookiness. Yeah, because it's like I think it's so out of uh not out of the ordinary, out of pocket. It's just like in a different universe it feels like. And it feels like sometimes the scarier it is, the more China just tries to hide it. Because in my perspective, China's just like video games, technology, they work hard, work fast, bing bing bong. But then to have like she was just live streaming. She was this feels so worldly. Like I'm like we're all the same. China, boots. Boots are gonna sit down in yo fucking. We'll have a Dunkin' Donuts, a Burger King. You better fix yo. Don't they have the OSHA? Threaten China with worker rights. I'm like, yo, dude,
Attacks roaches and ants as they crawl.
be nicer.
And kills them dead.
What was the first one? Ethiopia?
Lu Chao
Racist.
Maozi was also a young creator on the Douyin site, focusing most of her content on the
Yo.
latest fashion trends, with her videos helping her to amass a following of over 600,000 people, making her a full-on celebrity on the platform. It's a type of virality that so many people
Girls with
in our
belly
world
buttons?
desire.
I'm like,
But this
damn,
also
baby, you
comes with
human?
a downside. With so many eyes on you, the criticism and hatred lobbied your way on a daily basis is often
funny,
overwhelming,
though.
and for many
have
it
to
can
be
be
human
too
to
much
have
to bear. And for Lu,
I have
this
a belly
fame
button.
ultimately came at the cost of her own mental sanity.
That's where my mom used
Even
to feed
before
me
her
when I was
rise
the
to
baby.
prominence, Lu had long since struggled with severe depression, and now, given the rise of what her family described as constant online harassment, this depression would only worsen by the day. By August of 2021, things had gotten so bad for
Oh
Lu.
my god, hold on, bullying and stuff? Let me be your man. I'll be your man, dude. Someone said in today we could go to it right now. It's in my shorts. Someone said something about my GTA shorts and they were like, "Oh, this is the fifth short I've seen and you're still on the same mission?" And then I just put okay question mark. You could stop breathing and I wouldn't care. Get the fuck out of here, dumbass. And I hit post. And it's just cause if some nerdy guy is scrolling through my shit, he sees that comment and he sees me being like, fuck you. I like video games. I'll take my time. He'll be like, me too, man. I refuse to start a new Minecraft world. I'll live in the first world I ever created. I'm living in it. And that's the type of shit, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, if someone I mean, sometimes I click on their profile. I've deleted a lot of comments before because I'll click like some kid will be like, "Oh, gay" or something, and then I'll comment the meanest shit back. Yeah, super mean, like if I out of pocket. But then it's like I'll click on their profile and it's like a kid, and I'm like, I feel bad, you know? But then if it's like a dude, I'm like, dude, go watch something else, go do something else. Why are you commenting on my shit? So it's like when it comes to bullies, bully them back, dude. Unless they're like fucking skits and they're gonna DOS you. But then Ethan Klein, dude, anyone tries to do anything, boom, it's traceable. It's traceable, and the person that tried to do that little prank or fucking whatever will now spend like 15 to 20 years and probably a bunch of legal fees. So it's like DOS, like you're allowed to defend yourself if you're being bullied. And you're allowed to be mean out of pocket. If I saw some I mean, should you tell people to uninstall? No. My advice? I say that sometimes though, honestly. Yeah, fucking loser catch himself in my comments. I'm like, yo, I have a lot of resentment towards.
That her family began to fear that she may try and harm herself and decided to place her in a psychiatric hospital with the hopes that there she would be safe and hopefully overcome her personal demons. And for a while, that's exactly what she would
What?
do, as she supposedly began making
She
serious strides in her
institutionalized
mental
herself
health. Though
because of
once
other people.
released, her progress would again diminish, as she would fall back into creating content, with the online harassment only growing worse and worse the more her account grew. Which leads us to October 14th, 2021. On top of dealing with the stress associated with online fame, Lou would also have to deal with a breakup between her and her longtime boyfriend, something that would cause her already collapsing mental health to completely plummet. And so that day, she would take to Douyin and post a cryptic video stating that this may be the last time she ever interacts with her audience, with the clip being titled, "This is probably the last video. Thank you for following."
Bitch will, I mean, not who, pause, canceled, resume. You do anything except maybe just apologize and be a good person, right? Well, what the fuck? How can people go through so much shit and when the right answer is just like God and to be a good person and stop fucking play some video games, hang out, watch a funny video and then hold your stomach as you laugh. When was the last time you held your stomach and laughed at a funny video? Sometimes when I'm editing my own GTA shorts, bro, I'm having the funnest time. And if you scroll through all my videos, dude, we got so much videos for no reason, but every single one of them has a different title. When I make the video, I sit there in like some cerebral flow state, yeah? And then I'll cut up the short and then I'll just like super quick just type out a title. And then I have to do that 400 million times. Because if it's like a 30-minute episode, then it's like find things like actively right now. I could sit here and be like, my ex is a fucking bitch. She did so. I hate her so much. My heart. I still love her. Yeah, but then it's just like some weird spiral of me being sad and or I could just fuck all that noise and play some video games. And then sometimes you watch the video games, I get mad at the video games because I don't know what I'm doing. The video game's not telling me how to fucking play the game right. No. But it's like the frustration of being human will always be there. Now what you choose to focus on is what you choose to focus on.
Along.
But it's like at this point it's just like hang up the phone. Call that person back and be like, yo, I'm not doing too well. I don't think I have been for a while. Can I trust you? Do you trust me? And they're like, yeah, what is it? Thinking it's like some fucking, and they're like, no, it's just sometimes online, the haters be getting to me. They're like, do you want to go on a zip line? I'm like, fucking zip line? I didn't even think about a zip line. You thought about zip lines? They're like, what about skydiving? A water slide? You just want to go get a hamburger? Cheeseburger? Cheeseburger with no cheese? I used to order that on purpose because I thought they would like add magic to a cheeseburger. Because I would order a hamburger and it would taste different than a cheeseburger with no cheese. I don't even know how to explain that. I still is one of those things deeply rooted in my system. If I see a hamburger, I'm like, that's cooked with hamburger energy. You know what I'm saying? If I see a cheeseburger, this is super sad. Yeah, but then also I'm like, no, cheeseburger energy, no cheese. Like I want that cheeseburger energy, no cheese. You know what I'm saying? Dude, it takes a cerebral to understand something like that. When they cook a hamburger, they're cooking a hamburger with that hamburger energy. When you cook a cheeseburger, you're cooking cheeseburger with that energy. You cook a cheeseburger with no cheese? That's God. I'm so sorry. I think we're coping.
It is an
No,
incredibly
I am like
worrisome
400 million miles away from everything, dude. If my ex actually kills herself, I would go after the governments. I would go after cities. I would go after probably universes. and blame everyone in the way and be like, this is your fault. Leave me alone. But also she a tough bitch, honestly. I think she's fine. Yeah. She was the mean sometimes I cosplay to be mean, but she was super mean. I learned a lot of mean things from her.
Video has given her a complex history with
Also, I grew up
depression.
with sisters, yeah, that's why I'm so fucking I'm like, I had to be my own man. And then you're like a man raised by his sisters. And I'm like, listen, okay, I'm a little wholesome, a little goofy. It's fine. What matters is I think that's where I learned my rooted how I know how to be mean. 'Cause I'll say shit that's true. I listen, if I'm being mean, I'm not making things up.
Viewers grew worried that she was alluding to taking her own life, with some questioning what she had in store for this supposed live stream, or if it would even
What?
happen at all. But sure enough, as promised, that same night Lou would go live and reveal her plan. As the stream starts, Lou is sitting in front of a camera, echoing the sentiment of her previous video, and expressing how truly sad she was, before she shifted the conversation to ending her life. As viewers began clicking on her stream, Lou explains how she had purchased liquid pesticide from the store, which was said to be highly toxic, as a single sip was capable of causing death.
And kills them dead.
And not only did she buy this, but she also explained how she planned to drink it right there on stream, before asking her viewers what they thought. By this point, her stream had already amassed over 1,200 viewers, many of whom being supposed fans of the young woman, who clearly was in desperate need of help. But rather than helping talk her out of this, the live chat instead began to turn on her. Looking at still images pulled from the stream, the majority of her comments read things like,
What do those say?
drink, 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 or drink if you want to. And even more nefariously, other users would write, drink up, fatty, and prove that you have depression in front of this many people, drink the pesticide. It's unclear what Lou's true intentions were when starting this stream, but many believe that this was simply done as a call for help, with one of her own friends even stating that this was only done as a way of attracting her ex-boyfriend's attention, and that she never actually intended on taking her own life. But
How would
seeing
that
the way that
see again, how would that if dude, back to the beginning where I was like, no, dude, these bitches will do everything, anything. They'll recreate different universes just to hop in those universes and still be wrong. It's like, bit. If this was all to attract her ex, you could have just posted like a thirst trap and then he likes it and then you're back in, bro. Or you send him a direct message and you're like, hey, and then he either ignores it or sends one back. Dude, if it was me, you're asking if it was me, I would have messaged back instantly. You message me, I'm messaging you. You comment on my things, I'm commenting so quick. I get that notification, I'll scroll up and sometimes I get a little bit depressed. No, no. But also I'm like, dude, that's why it's like, hold on. When I call my dad and he doesn't pick up, I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, unless he's in a meeting, but then he hits me with the let me call you back. And my dad, that's a power play. Let me tell you, he has his phone, he'll bring it up in meeting. And then he's like, oh, my son. And then he'll hit the can I call you back later? And then presumably the people in his meeting are like, oh, you're such a cool dad. Just ignoring your son's phone call. I'm like, Dad, come on. He's like, I'll call you back. And then he calls me back all the time. He's like, JR, I was in a meeting. Like you hung up on me in front of people. You did that shit on purpose, didn't you? No. I'm just saying, like, I don't know, dude. How is this in her brain a way of fixing?
their chat had turned on her, and hearing the demands that she drink the pesticide only fueled her spiraling mental health. And so, in an instant, Lou grabbed the bottle and began to chug. Following this, Lou puts the jug down and makes a remark stating that was hard to drink, before the poison seemingly begins to take effect. The stream then ends as Lou clutches her throat and stops the video. With the livestream over, Lu immediately began to regret her decision, as she would quickly grab her phone and call an ambulance. However, it was much too late, and sadly, she would lose her life, thanks in large part to the encouragement from her very own audience.
No, you can't blame the audience. You can't blame the audience. You can't blame the trolls. No, dude, fuck that. That shit's so out of pocket, and like it's forcefully making other people at fault. It's like, no, she was at fault. It was a super sad situation, but
It's a horrible story, but somehow
to blame Shift, it's like, bro, she didn't have to.
it actually gets darker from here, as it actually
Gets
has one of the
darker?
most shocking twists that I have personally ever seen in a case before.
She became an urban legend. No?
Following her
Oh my
passing,
God.
Lu's body would be quickly cremated with a funeral planned shortly after, so her loved ones could pay their respects. Though something strange happened before the ceremony could commence, as the ashes of Lu would disappear. Apparently, the crematorium had refused to turn over Lu's ashes to her family, claiming that somehow they had gotten lost, though in actuality, an investigation would reveal that these remains had actually been stolen, and stolen by none other than the employees responsible for her cremation. According to reports, numerous members of the staff had taken the remains of Lu with the intention of selling them on the black market, as once news broke of her passing, the agency was contacted by an individual expressing interest in purchasing her cremated remains. And what did this man have planned once in possession of these ashes? Well, he wanted to marry them. In certain areas of China, there exists a practice called ghost marriages, where people are allowed to marry after death. This
We are learning so much about China right now. This is what?
is done due to the fact that
My brain just jumped to like 300 conspiracies, and they're like, and this is just normal. People marry dead bodies, dead people. It's called ghost marriages. Uncultured. You didn't you didn't know about ghost marriages? I'm like, no, China. What the
unmarried
fuck?
girls are seen as undesirable in their society and can even be shameful for the parents, so some will choose to marry the deceased individuals as a way of supposedly saving their souls and their families from this shame. It's a bizarre tradition that typically happens between people who,
Yeah,
at
but
the
to
very
marry a
least,
dead
knew each other.
person?
But it's especially twisted when it's done without any form of consent from the victim or her family, as this man was a complete stranger to the girl. Though
Okay,
thankfully,
I'm glad it's
this
weird.
plan would eventually fall through when the buyer supposedly backed out, and the operation would eventually be busted, leading to Lu's remains being found and safely returned to her family.
How could you
and it's
tell,
this family
bro?
that I truly feel sorry
It's
for the
cremated.
most in this situation, as not only did they have to deal with the highly publicized passing of their daughter in such a horrific way, but also the theft and almost the marriage of her remains.
I think she got stolen. There's no way that you can. We love you.
Let's turn now to China, where the Winter Olympics are underway in Beijing. China's human rights abuses are getting as much attention as the athletes.
Oh my God,
Our
all
final
these are about
case once
China.
again takes us back to the Douyin app and a small impoverished village within Suzhou, China. There, a man named Dong Mumin had been living with his family of 8 children, 7 boys and 1 girl, a dynamic that was extremely unusual to say the least, as China had only just recently gotten rid of its one-child policy, yet somehow Dong had found a workaround and managed to grow this family all of his own. Even more surprising was the fact that Dong actually lived in destitute poverty, hardly earning enough to take care of himself, let alone this big family. Yet somehow he found a way for himself
What
and
do you
his
think it's gonna
children
be?
to survive. And not just survive, but seemingly thrive, as Dong always seemed to have a smile on his face, and his family remained positive and full of joy despite their circumstances. To the locals, his story was incredibly touching, and soon enough this story would begin to spread to the rest of the world, as Dong began to document his life on Douyin, where he ran the aptly named Father of 8 page, which most would view as extremely inspirational given his positive outlook and the love he had for his family. Soon enough, his videos began being viewed by thousands of people, growing his account to 600,000 followers in the span
60.
of just a few uploads.
We are on upload like 5 million for TikTok. We're still at like 3K.
For long, Dong had become a full-on
We'll get there.
small-town celebrity, with other influencers traveling to the region to interview him, as well as to help him set up ways for his audience to donate to his family. This exposure and outside help led to a brand new stream of income, as well as a seemingly endless supply of donations
Look at
for
the
his
foods.
children, who would receive such a staggering amount of gifted clothes that it quite literally filled up an entire section of his already small home. The whole ordeal was undeniably touching, and among the many influencers to help make these donations happen was an account called Shujo Brother Yiksu, a man who had visited Dong and his family on multiple occasions.
Oh
And
no,
on one
dude.
particular day in
This is
late
about to get dark.
January of 2021, he would once again show up unannounced to the home of Dong for another routine visit. And it was on this visit that everything changed.
What do you think? Okay, so hold on. The guy
Upon being let into
is
Dong's
finding
home, the man
something.
behind the Shujo Brother Yiksu account, who I'll now be referring to simply as Shujo, as I was unable to find his actual name, would begin interviewing one of Dong's many sons, who mentioned something unusual. Holding what appeared to be food in his hand, the child mentions how he and his brothers were often tasked with feeding their mother, who lived out back. This was a bizarre statement from the child,
Oh,
as
the
after all of
mom
Shujo's
never
visits,
existed.
he had never once seen a mother figure. And up until this point, most had just assumed that she was out of the picture. And so, confused, Shujo asked the boy to take them to their mother, to which he was promptly led to a small hut behind the house, with his camera drawn.
Oh my god.
你妈妈，你说是你妈妈，你没事
Shit,
你
like
打
cage,
那
bro.
你就
What
是
the
家庭的那个
fuck?
饭，那饭，那饭，你好，冷吗？不冷，我给你拿个衣服穿上吧。我给你拿个衣服穿上吧。我给你拿个衣服去，好不好？我给你拿件衣服，我看你咱有爱心人士捐出衣服，我给你拿一件。
Inside the dilapidated hut, Shujo would find a disheveled woman with a chain around her neck, attached to the wall and sealed by a padlock. The woman herself looked scared, frail, and was noticeably freezing, as that winter day when the video was filmed had been particularly cold. The woman was not only without a jacket, but without shoes, barefoot and shivering in the corner of the room. The majority of her words were barely discernible, as she seemed completely disconnected from the world around her, with the only understandable statement she could manage to make being how she was kept there like a prostitute.
快点吃吧，我给你弄点倒点水。
阿哥，我就记一下吃你，记一下，我刚记你呀，我哥。
我吃吧，吃吧，吃吧。
In all the videos posted by and about Dong, this was the first time his wife and the mother of his children was shown on camera. Immediately, the clip would spread across China, prompting concern for the chained woman, as given the optics alone, many feared that she may be a victim of human trafficking.
I don't think
and that
she's-
Dong, this supposedly wholesome figure on the Douyin app, may have actually been using her for the sole purpose of bearing children. In response to the allegations, Dong came forward and admitted that the woman, whose surname was Yang, was in fact his wife, but that she suffered from debilitating mental health issues, and due to this he claimed that Yang would often lose control and attempt to hurt those around her, including her children, and so for their safety, she was kept chained up in a hut outside of the house. And this was a sentiment echoed by officials in the area, as a statement would quickly be made by law enforcement stating, "Her family has been given further assistance to ensure they have a warm Lunar New Year." Despite this quick response, however, the public largely doubted the story that Dong and the authorities had been telling, as regardless of its validity, the way this woman was being kept is clearly just inhumane, and things would only get more suspicious from here as people attempted to dig deeper. For starters, many would visit the region to try and assist Yang and hopefully save her from this neglect, only to discover that Chinese authorities had actually closed off the entire town in which Dong's family had lived, making access to them impossible. Along with this, journalists who had written about the incident were
You know what's crazy? China would do all this shit except to help their people.
Also supposedly arrested, along with the actual owner of the Shujo Brother Iksu account and 2 other influencers who had attempted to help Yang. It seemed clear that China was attempting to fully censor
Yeah,
this
they're just
whole
covering it
ordeal,
up.
and for good reason too, as this video was released just days before the start of the already controversial Winter Olympic Games, which just so happened to be taking place in China. But as hard as they
Fuck
tried to
China.
suppress this, the story of the chained woman had already spread far across the world, even on one day being mentioned across social media more so than the actual Olympics themselves. And in the face of intense international scrutiny, the truth would finally be revealed. In actuality, this lady's name isn't even Yang, and instead it was Chow Huma Mi, and sadly, she had in fact been the victim of human trafficking. In 1996, when Chow was just 20 years old, she was taken to a mental health clinic where somehow she would end up being sold into a trafficking ring. From there, she was bought and sold on 3 separate occasions, with one of her buyers being Dong's father. Once purchased, Dong would marry the woman and essentially use her as a means of birthing children. And it was within that backyard hut that Dong would often leave this starved and freezing woman, chained up like an
How
animal
are they buying people but living in a...
with no chance to leave, and only using her when it would come time to have another child. And as for
Like, is that
her
how fucked
violent
other countries are?
outbursts, well, that too was a fabrication by Dong, as it would later be revealed that she was actually suffering from a seizure disorder, and each time she would have one, Dong would punish her by chaining her up, not because she was dangerous or anything like that, but because she was an inconvenience. The whole situation is unbelievably horrible, and truthfully, I can't even imagine the horrors that this poor woman has endured. And without this massive public pressure, it's likely she would have lived the rest of her life as a captive woman. Though thankfully, this doesn't appear to be the case, as it's believed that she has now finally been rescued and is being given the proper care that she deserved all along.
That's good.
While Dong and multiple others involved in her trafficking have since been arrested, leading to an extremely shocking and heinous end to a man once considered
Nah, dude, fucking China though, they knew about this. They knew about this, tried to cover it up, and then only went after that much because the public had an outcry.
one of Doyen's most wholesome creators. Though there's
That's
one
my
last
problem with
element to this
China.
story, an element that totally takes away from this
More?
somewhat positive
Nick.
ending, with that being that Xiao wasn't the only captive woman in that village. Earlier I had mentioned that the Shujo Brother Yixu account had been banned with its owner having been arrested,
Entire
and though this was
village is
primarily due
for
to the
that?
expose on Dong, he would also release another video directly before his ban that showed that Xiao wasn't alone. In that very same small village, just a few houses down, Shujo would discover this.
I don't understand.
Unlike the chained woman's story, this video would garner just a fraction of the attention, but is equally as alarming, as this woman, whose surname is Zong, had too been purchased many years ago by her now husband, and it seems that she is somehow treated even worse than Chow, as she had supposedly been beaten consistently throughout the early years of their relationship, leaving her too with severe mental issues, potentially caused by head trauma. And to make things even worse, she has lived like this on the floor of that hut on her knees, unable to walk or stand, for 20 years. Just left there to essentially waste away, unable to even move enough to make it to the bed that sits so tantalizingly close. There's just something so incredibly disturbing about this video in particular, and unfortunately I couldn't find any more information on it, with the only real detail being that the case was quote-unquote under investigation. But sadly I have no idea what ended up happening to Zong since then. But I do hope that they are giving her the proper care and putting measures in place to protect any others like her and Chow, as given that these 2 cases happened so close to each other in one small village, I have a bad feeling that they aren't the only ones.
What the fuck?
I want to give a huge shout out to my God tier patron members: Alexander Duran, America's Grumpy Uncle, Bazoo42.
Shout out to Patreon supporters. Jesus, bro. Holy. Yo, China's got Yo, dude. China be making America seem bad, yeah? But I'm like, yo, dude, this is, uh, I don't know. As an Arab, I am ashamed that slavery has not been outlawed in the Arab world. What? Oh, that was the first one, the Khalifa system. So they do, that is, honestly, praise be, God bless America. We are number one. Thanks for watching. Bing, bing, bong.